Halloween, a holiday dating back a couple thousand years now. A holiday nowadays where most kids go trick-or-treating, dress up in funny, kooky, or straight-up scary outfits. They watch spooky movies and show off their stash of candy when they get home from trick-or-treating. If you're anything like me though, every day is Halloween for you, but we go especially crazy in October. Some tend to have a month-long celebration of all things macabre, spooky, and scary, putting up Halloween decorations, trying to watch at least one horror movie a day, and celebrate being a super odd and spooky individual, and for once it feels like normal, for at least a month out of the year. While Halloween seems mostly for kids, Halloween fandom has definitely risen in adults, almost to the point that we adults may like it even more than kids. Some things in pop culture have briefly explained the origins of Halloween, like if you've seen the movie Trick or Treat.
Samhain, also known as All Hallows Eve, also known as Halloween. Predating Christianity, the Celtic holiday was celebrated on the one night between autumn and winter when the barrier between the living and the dead was thinnest, and often involved rituals that included human sacrifice.
Thanks, Rhonda. But with me being a huge Halloween fan, I figured it'd be best for me to do a deep dive into the origins of Halloween and how we got here to the great holiday of today. Let's begin. General consensus for its origin are that Halloween dates as far back as the ancient Celtic festival known as Samhain. Some pronounce this as Samhain, but its Gaelic pronunciation is Samhain. Samhain was started as a celebration marking the end of summer, the end of the harvest season, and the Celtic New Year in Ireland, which would begin on November 1st. They considered this one last outing before the winter came. So on the night of October 31st, Samhain, the Celts believed that the worlds between the living and the dead would cross over. They believed that ghosts would return to the earth. They would celebrate by having big bonfires and wear wild costumes, sometimes consisting of animals, and they would burn crops. In a way, this might be a slight origin to Mischief Night, where some run around and TP other people's homes, or if you are a big fan of the movie The Crow, Devil's Night, when they try to start as many fires as possible.
Devil's Night is upon us again. So we throw a little party, start a bunch of fires.
Don't do that. That's horrible. They use this celebration and the thoughts of spirits returning to Earth, along with Celtic priests basically playing fortune teller, as a form of comfort for the harsh winter ahead. Sometime later, the Romans had taken over a lot of the Celtic lands and began incorporating two of their big holidays along with Samhain. One was Feralia, a day where they simply honored their dead, and the other was a celebration of the Roman goddess of fruit and trees named Pomona. Eons later, with Christianity on the rise, we have what is known as All Saints' Day, which honors Christian martyrs and all saints, originally taken place on May 13th but was eventually moved to November 1st. Sometime later, November 2nd was entitled All Souls' Day, a day honoring the dead. Now, All Souls' Day had a pretty similar feel to Samhain, people having big bonfires, dressing up in costumes, and celebrating the dead. Eventually, a holiday in the same spirit made its way back to October 31st, the same day as Samhain, and was called All Hallows Eve. Then, after some time, it became known as Halloween, the holiday we know today. Now, to Americans, this began as a European holiday, so how did it become celebrated in America? Well, over time, just like it did overseas. In the 19th century, Irish immigrants that came overseas had these celebrations. Of course, at first, this was not the norm. In fact, probably very strange to some. But with some time, it became celebrated more and more in America and grew into what it is now. At the time, people would have private parties celebrating the harvest, dressing up in costumes, and telling ghost stories to others. According to several sources, some used to carve turnips, which eventually turned into pumpkin carving. You could give the bobbing for apples credit to the Roman goddess Pomona due to her symbol being an apple. As far as trick-or-treating is concerned, it started as poorer folks dressing up in costume, going to wealthier places in their community, putting on a performance of some sort, or telling poems or stories of some sort, and in return asking for food and treats. Some history of Halloween can feel quite vague, but it's tough to be detailed when this tradition dates back almost 2,500 years. To this day, we still celebrate a good amount of how this holiday started. I mean, now it's Halloween parties are pretty popular, of course trick-or-treating, pumpkin carving, decorating the house, spooky movies. Even with schools, they like hosting trunk-or-treat events and have become more popular and common every year. Halloween is a holiday that should absolutely be celebrated, and is celebrated for good reason. There are no holidays that really celebrate the darker side of life and the spooky parts of ourselves, but this one embraces it and makes it normal. Now, if we make Krampus a normal thing in the United States, that would be awesome, because it seems anytime I bring up Krampus, no one has any familiarity with it. Sorry, Christmas, but Halloween is one of the most wonderful times of the year, so get used to it. It's been around forever and will continue to be celebrated for years to come. P.S. Can we please make Halloween a holiday like Christmas where the general consensus is that workplaces are closed? That'd be awesome. Thanks, and thank you all for watching.